In the previous lecture, we understand how encapsulation works in Python. Using encapsulation, you restrict the data from access. Now, let's take a look at what is init method. This is a very important method while creating a class. So, in this lecture, we are going to understand what is init method is and how we can use it in Python. Init is one of the most important methods in Python. It's similar to the constructor in JavaScript. If you don't know about JavaScript, then don't worry. Let me just explain what is the use of this init method. The use of this init method is to initialize the class attributes when the class object is created. So when you create an instance of the class, you can initialize the class attributes. To understand how this method works and how we can use it in Python, let me just explain with a simple example. So let me just take you through a simple example to understand how this init method works in Python. So here I'm going to simply create a class. So I'm going to start with the class keyword and then I'm going to specify name person. Now here I'm going to specify colon to specify the scope for this class, and then here I'm going to call init method. So here I'm going to say define, and now you don't need to specify your own name to this method. This is predefined method in Python. You don't need to specify your own name to it. So to access this method, you just need to specify double underscore init and then specify double underscore, just like this. When you specify double underscore, you will automatically get the init method. Once you have the init method, you're going to get the default parameter self, which just refers to the current class. Now to this method, let me just pass a parameter. Here I'm going to say name. And just for that, in this method, I'm going to say self.name, and then I'm going to just specify equal to sign and then specify name. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create class instance name and specify this parameter value to this class instance. Let me just create here another method. So here I'm going to say define say hi, and in this method let me just print something. So here I'm going to say print hello, my name is, and then here I'm going to just concatenate self.name. So I'm going to just call here self to access the class instance, and then I'm going to specify name of the class instance. So just for that, down here I'm going to create an instance of this class. So I'm going to simply say here p is equal to, you can specify any name for this variable, that doesn't matter, person, and specify parentheses. Now as you know, this statement is going to initialize and create the instance of the object. So here in this p variable you have instance of this class. So as I said earlier, this method going to help you to initialize your class attributes. Now let me show you the old way to initialize this class attribute. If you want to initialize this class attribute, you just need to first call the class instance and then specify name, and then you need to initialize it, just like this. So this is a way to initialize this class attribute. But using this init method, you don't need to call this statement. Instead, you have a simple way to do it. Let me just get rid of this statement. And now, as I said earlier, this method is going to initialize the class attributes. So in this parentheses, you can initialize this name. So in this parentheses, I'm going to simply say daily, just like this. So now this value is going to pass to this name variable, and I'm going to just initialize it to this class instance. Let me just print this class instance. So here I'm going to say print p.name, just like this. When I execute this file, you can notice I'm going to have daily as a result. If I change this value, I'm going to get that result on the screen. Now let me just explain this code first. I'm going to first create a class, then create a predefined method which is init. This is just like a constructor in other languages, and this method is going to initialize the class attributes. Now you can notice I did not call this method in these statements. I just initialized the class, I just created the instance of the class and then print the name statement. Then where is this init method? I did not call that method, but I'm going to have the result what I want. The magic behind this init method is this method is going to call automatically when you create an instance of the class. So when you create an instance of the class, this method will automatically call. So when you specify parameter, it's going to pass to this method, and this method is going to call and initialize this class attribute and then create this class instance. Now the benefit of using this method is you don't have to call it. This method is automatically called when you create an instance of the class. Now let me just get rid of this parameter and try to execute this file. When I try to execute this file, you're going to get an error message, missing one required parameter. When you try to create this instance, you're going to get an error message because in this method, we specify a parameter. So you need to pass a value to this parameter before executing this command. So I'm going to just pass here parameter just like this and execute this file. So I'm going to get the result what I want. Now let me just pass another parameter here. I'm going to say here x, and let me just create another class instance. Self.x is equal to x, and then let me just print it right here. What you need to do is, when you create an instance of this class, you need to pass this value as well. So here I'm going to say comma and then specify 50, and then I'm going to just say p.x, just like this. When I execute this file, I'm going to get 50 as a result. So using this method, you can initialize n number of parameters. This method is very important to work with classes. Practice with this example and understand how init method work in Python. I will see you in the next lecture.